The following program makes use of copywritten material as part of a psychological examination of music. All music copyrights remain property of their respected creators. Welcome to the Conversationalists with John and Niko.
Today we got a showcase special for you guys. Possibly the greatest band of all time. I say that with a question mark at the end. I agree with it, though. The fucking Deftones.
Deftones.
They've been my favorite band for a long time. And John, they've been your favorite band for a long time. Is that correct?
You know, let me answer that question mark, question that you had there, which is, of course, the only kind of questions there are. Yes, this is the greatest band of all time.
I definitely concur. And if you guys think they're the greatest band of all time, man, let's reach out to each other, man. What's your favorite song? What's your favorite album? Who's your favorite band member? Reach out to us on our Facebook page, our Twitter page. You know, we'll start communicating with each other.
We may cover it. We may cover it.
Absolutely. On that note, John, take us into today's show.
All right. You ready?
I'm ready. Do it.
You ready?
Do it, John.
Welcome to the Conversationalists.
Alright, we are here for another showcase. My favorite band of all time. I'm calling it number one favorite band of all time, the Deftones.
Deftones.
Johnny, we've talked about like ranks as far as like what our favorite bands are. Now I know Deftones is purely like my favorite band out of us, but where do they stand with you? Like how close to
They're on the top 5, man. First let's get the Clinky in.
Clinky.
Let's get Clinky. Nice.
Top 5.
Yeah, definitely the top 5. I'm not 100% sure which bands all go into the top 5.
Right, but Deftones are
But
in there.
Deftones definitely counts as in the top 5 because it is one of my favorite bands and something I could definitely say, you know, at least many points in my life was my favorite band.
Right.
It's just really hard to pinpoint what is my ultimate favorite band. But definitely for my entire life, Deftones counts in the top 5 slots.
Now, before we dive more into this, like, what do you think a band has to do to like meet that standard of like in like a top 5 like of your favorite band? Like, what qualifications do you think they have to meet in order to achieve that?
Well, with this specific band, it's kind of been one of those. It really feels my mood, you know, like it represents how I feel, especially as how I felt as a teenager, or, I mean, like the general style that they have, like isn't really skilled too far, like as, what's the word? Like it's not like a technical band,
Right.
You know, they surely share those qualities. But I mean, it's not like they're doing what they do just to be the most technical or the hardest to hit notes or anything like that.
Right.
It's purely the groove, the vibe, the feeling, and Deftones, particularly to me, definitely represents that ultimate feel that I have.
Absolutely. We've listened to bands where they were playing like the most intricate of shit possible.
Right.
You know, like some of them, like they could be like music gods, rock gods.
And some of them, they just don't even fucking click though, man.
Right. And we would listen to it and like you would be digging on it or whatever, but I just wouldn't absolutely feel nothing. You know, I appreciate the technicality. I appreciate the hard work and effort that they put into mastering their craft, because it's being, you know, guitar, though anybody could pick it up to master it and to be like truly skilled, like that's like hours and years of your life that you're devoting.
There's
to
always respect for those people.
Absolutely. But when it comes to the Deftones, that I think made me like them so much is like you said, like they aren't that technical. They aren't like that like intricate with their stuff. Right. They're just real heavy. They're real raw. Like you feel like they're putting their emotions into their craft, which is, it's kind of kind of funny whenever you look at the band and you look at the members. Like you take Stephen Carpenter, the guitar player.
Yeah.
Big time stoner, like up there with Cypress Hill as like one of the most stoners in the world.
Does that not apply to the rest of the guys in that band?
Well, no, it does. But I think if you were to line them up and you were to say which one of these probably smokes the most weed, you look at Stephanie like, yeah, it's probably you know, I'm sure the others dived into their drug of choice. But as far as like being the stoner of the group, I think Steph took the ball on that one.
Right.
But when you think about Chino, the lead singer.
Yeah.
He's a very emotional dude, and like his bandmates have called him out on that like numerous times, like called him like super emotional.
It sounds like us.
It sounds
back
like,
in the day.
It sounds like a typical lead singer.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I think Chino is your avatar though, man. That's
all right. Let's just go ahead and get it out there. Ever since 2006, 2005. It has often been said that I look exactly like Chino Moreno of the Deftones, which
oftenly by me a lot of the time.
Oftenly by you, but it was around that time where I had the same hairstyle, I had the same facial hair, which is just a little scruff on the chin and the soul patch.
The socks.
I had some long ass tube socks with white, like colored stripes on the top. I had the baggy ass sticky shorts. I had like the black band tee.
Right.
I essentially was Chino. Chino was my spirit animal for a long time.
Avatar.
Spirit animal sounds a lot better. But
sounds kind of gay whenever I say Avatar.
But yeah, let's just dive right into it, man. Like Deftones. Do you remember the first time you ever listened to Deftones?
It was definitely whenever I used to watch music videos. Whenever I lived with my grandmother.
Yeah.
It was certainly the Change in the House of Flies song off of the White Pony album.
Absolutely.
And see, my cousin also lived with us, Megan, and I remember she bought the White Pony album, and I just thought it was awesome. I listened to that album. I loved it. I loved everything about that album. There was really no other album that I've listened to before that, but certainly, whenever I eventually did listen to things like Around the Fur, I knew that I had heard My Own Summer before. I just couldn't tell when or where. But yeah, I could go on talking about White Pony.
White Pony was definitely my introductory to that band as well, simply because that was their probably most commercial hit.
Right.
White Pony, that was their first one to go gold.
A lot of times is my favorite of anything.
Yeah. The very first time, okay, I kind of actually, this is kind of a weird story, but it was probably a little after 2000, maybe 2001 or 2, and I'm on vacation with my family in San Antonio or whatever, and we're all in the car, big SUV driving around town, and my dad always put it on whatever radio station me and my brother wanted to listen to. Like, he never paid attention to his wife or anybody else. It's just like, boys, what do you want it on? And since we were huge into rock, we were like, put it on whatever rock album you could, rock station you could find. And he would scan through the whole ones. And his wife's daughter, my stepsisters, they'd be like, oh, no, put it on this one. And it'd be like some pop song like Beyonce or like some show. It's like, no, we're not listening to this.
Usher.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we would... he would just keep scrolling through the radio stations until he found like a good rock station. Then he put one on, and it was the radio station. Disc jockey is like, this next song is new track from Deftones called "Change in the House of Flies." And
so that was your first song too?
That was my first song too.
Okay.
So I heard it on the radio, but I only heard it that one time, and one of my a few days later, one of my stepsister's friends came over to visit, and we were all just in the car hanging out listening to music, and then that song came on again, and she's like, oh, this is my favorite song of all time, and like, kind of like feeling how this music like spread to people.
Yeah.
Like people that you don't even know, they hear it, and like, oh, this is my favorite song ever.
Right.
Like how it for me, that was my first experience ever, like, witnessing music like spread so
right.
like that. You meet a complete stranger, no one you'd ever met before. You know nothing about their musical preference, and then next thing you know, your guys are like jamming out to to the song that you both really love.
Right. You know, honestly, for me, like I didn't have that spread of any kind. Like in my paradigm, it was just I listened to Deftones. I really loved where they were coming from, and the rest of the world, in my eyes, was completely oblivious to how awesome this fucking band was. That's why it was, you know, an honor whenever I found out that you were a Deftones fan. It was like, dude, yeah, why are we not friends?
Right.
You know,
it was that classic moment. Did we just become best friends?
But really, I've had people that you know listen to Deftones, but in the same category as they listen to Godsmack,
right?
You know, and that's just like it's just like their field of music. But I don't think they really. I haven't really met a friend that just felt it the way that you do, the way that I do, and it's one of those bands. And going back into what we were talking about earlier about you know how it's not so intricate what they do. You know, it seems as though, you know, also whenever I was saying that the general vibe and the groove that they have in the style, it's like every single one of their instruments though are the same. Like that's my favorite kind of drums. Abe Cunningham. He plays my favorite style. I love other drummers. I really do, but like that is what I want to hear if I was playing guitar. And same thing with the guitar being played. That is the kind that I ultimately play, that power chord, you know, where I'm, you know, hovering over, you know, all three of the notes and hitting the major parts, you know. Obviously he does other things. I'm just saying, like, the style that they have is what I ideally want to jam in a band with. Everything else, I mean, you've heard me use my vocals in a sense that was trying to do kind of like a Chino sound to it. You know, I think Black Box, I really put a lot of what I felt Chino was into. Not that I was trying to be Chino or that I was trying to copycat in any style.
You drew from him to create your own sound.
Right, I did, absolutely. If he didn't exist, it wouldn't have been the way that it was.
As I did the very same thing with Abe Cunningham and the drums.
Right.
One of the first songs I ever learned how to play was the title track, Around the Fur, off of Around the Fur. And I learned it just because it sounded so fun. You know, like I would have my stereo right behind me, I'd plug my headphones in, and I'd just go off on my drums, just learning new music. And I heard that song, I was like, I could fucking do that.
Absolutely.
So I got into it, and then just the bang that he would do whenever it goes into the chorus, and then just the grooves from the da 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 da. Yeah, it's fun. It's like groove. It makes you want to move.
It is,
and that's always what I wanted to do with my drums, or at least my drum playing. And I began to notice at our live shows, like I would notice people begin to move. Like if we recorded video of our shows, I would notice like people are starting to move. And I drew all of that from Abe. Yeah. And his ability to make you groove, make you want to, make you leech onto his drums and everything that he was doing, Same thing with Chi Cheng, the bass player. I played bass for a little while before I played drums, and one of the first songs that I think I ever tried to learn how to play was a Knife Party.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great song. I heard them play it acoustic first, and I'm watching him play it the entire time because they would go to everybody else, but they would focus a lot on him because he has like doon 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 doon. He does a lot of like melodies with his bass.
Right.
So I was like, I could do that too. So I tried to learn, and they were the first and dominant inspirations that I ever had as a musician.
I think I know more Deftones covers than any other band that I know.
I believe you.
Ultimately, of course, on guitar, it's just one of those bands that I love to play. I enjoy playing, and I think I don't how many covers have we done at the band?
Okay, let's go back. We did
My Own Summer.
We did
first show ever.
We did Back to School.
Yeah.
We've done.
Yeah. I was gonna say both on the White Pony album. That was false.
Yeah. We did Minerva.
Did we do Minerva?
We did Minerva at your first show as well. At our first show.
All right.
We did do Minerva.
I Get All Numb.
Yeah.
That one, yeah.
I don't think you were around for it, but I know me and Gary, we've played around the Fur a whole lot. We've done Korea. We did Be Quiet and Drive. We did. That
was one of my first ones to play too.
We've done a lot of them. It's hard to think back and list them all out. But Deftones was like one of our favorite bands to cover, and like those songs were my favorite to play at live.
I think that we did Be Quiet and Drive when we used to do the Stephanie Pagoda parties.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were good times. But I just know that Deftones has always been like a major influence on me, and the fact that they're still going strong today, they haven't lost it yet, and I think that's great. But going all the way back to their beginnings, back in '95 with Adrenaline, I remember listening to that because everybody started with White Pony because that was their big hit,
Yeah.
So you'd hear that one, and then you'd kind of have to, dive in and do research on them and figure out who they are, and you realize, oh, they got 2 previous albums before White Pony. First one was Adrenaline, and I'll admit it at first, immediately I didn't catch on to it. Just because it was different it was so different than White Pony. I was expecting
it was a little bit more of like a metal sound.
It very much was. It's not that I didn't like it. It's just I wasn't expecting it, because you hear Changing House of Flies.
Yeah.
And that's just this
big
alternative.
Yeah.
Fucking, I don't even know what to call it, but it was just a huge song.
I think it was also helping the rise of the whole new metal sound.
Totally.
And especially with even Adrenaline, because he's still, while it was primarily a metal sound, he was still rapping in a lot of it. So that kind of helped, especially with Delgado, and everything. I mean, was he doing the samples and shit then?
Frank Delgado didn't come in until Around the Fur.
Okay. Well, still, yeah.
But no, they were definitely doing like that hip hop rock type sound back in those days, which was pretty big back in those days, because it was beginning it
began the rise of new metal.
It began the rise, definitely them and Korn and
Limp Bizkit. Yeah.
But listening to Adrenaline and listening to songs like Bored and 7 Words and Engine Number 9, like
that should have been my song. I don't know
which one.
I get bored.
Totally. I didn't get the opportunity to see them live yet. They came through through Houston a couple months ago, which I couldn't see them, but I can only listen to them because I was like listening to them from a rooftop, like a few feet away from the actual pavilion. And
did they do that one?
Yeah, they played Bored.
Oh man!
And just like the whole sound of Steph's guitars, like I'm sure he's still playing 7-string or 6-string on that one, but it's just listening to the how growling and how bassy it is, and like I feel like if I was right next to him, like I would feel it all the way down my balls and my stomach, like how it was just like consuming me. And that song in itself is just like so, like we've been saying this whole time, it's not technical at all.
Right.
It's very simple, but it's so effective.
It is very effective.
Someone once said, like, simplicity sells. That's probably as simplistic as it gets.
See, you say that, but at the same time, I'm sure whenever it comes to actually coming out with the sound and the effects on the amps, that's probably one hell of a lot of work.
Totally.
It's just like the actual fretwork, that's probably more simple. So you haven't seen Deftones, you've just heard them live.
Right.
You were able to hear them because you were close, but you've never actually gone to a Deftones show.
Right.
Okay. I saw them in 2007 for the Family Values tour, and they were awesome. I was a little disappointed. I was.
Why?
I've told you before this. My favorite song, the one that I really wanted to hear from them, was My Own Summer.
Okay.
And they did that song, but he sang it differently. And
Okay.
I do not blame this band, especially with, I'm sure that Chino's had like vocal surgeries and everything. And that, I think that really weighs out on what you can do, you know? And so I absolutely do not blame them. And I think he did the best that he could, you know, and it wasn't bad. It was just different. And the fact that it was different hurt me a little bit. You know, it's like, oh, why? You know,
but
it was the expectation.
But was it just the fact that you heard something different that upset you, or was it
It
just...
was that it was different and it wasn't to my liking.
See, then you really have no right to be mad.
I don't have... Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. I have zero right to be mad. You know, it was a wonderful performance. He did a lot. He moved around, and it wasn't a bad... And I actually have the DVD. Well, we were actually listening to it just a minute ago. But I have the 2007 DVD of Family Values tour where they toured with Korn, as they have for the longest time. And it really, you know, I hear that same version all the time by watching that DVD, and it's not bad. It's just what it was on the album. You know, is a little different. So
he definitely starts to do things a little bit differently live. From all the like videos that I've seen of them play live, or what I got to listen to them play live, it's definitely not the same. I'm pretty sure between Around the Fur and White Pony, he had damaged his throat, or damaged his windpipe in some way.
Yeah.
So that's why there was quite a while between the writing. Around the Fur came out in '97, and White Pony came out in 2000. So I mean, that was a pretty big leap between albums. And when you think about how both of those albums sound compared to each other, and the high notes that he was doing when he was younger and in the early stuff, and what he's doing in 2000 with White Pony, and then in 2003 with Deftones, you know, I think it kind of is a backfire on what we were saying about how they're not technical, because you have to imagine if maybe he was a little bit more technical, then maybe he would be able to control the way that he sung a little bit better so that he could keep doing those high notes.
Right.
But because they're such a raw band and because they get so intense with their shows,
they're limited at that point.
Exactly. But I don't want that to sound like a negative thing on them, because they put everything into their music. They put everything into their live shows. And but that's just one of those crazy things that happens when you're a crazy musician. Now you're talking about you saw them in 2007.
Right.
That was when they just came out, not just, but like a year after they came out with Saturday Night Wrist, which was a good album. I'll say that. If I were to...
my least favorite.
I would say the same. But that is when...
I could actually only listen to 3 songs on that.
That is when the band actually began their almost demise. Deftones, from what I've read, they were so close to breaking up because of that album. Chino, I think, had decided that he wanted to go record his vocals separately than the band. He wasn't focusing on writing lyrics. He was only focusing on playing guitar. Just total inner turmoil between each band member, and but they still played music and they still did shows. You know what I mean? They didn't quit, and but you were starting to sense something in their body language with each other. Whenever you see interviews,
right?
You notice these guys are looking a little bit more worn out and burned out than other bands were, and as a super fan such as myself, it is kind of heartbreaking to see that your favorite band, these guys that you literally are growing up with and finding yourself with, are going through these sort of things. And I don't know, it when stuff like that happens, it is devastating, but you constantly support your favorite band. You constantly want them to get better, because you never want to see them quit. You never want to find out one day that your favorite band, they're all broken up and they're no longer going to be playing Deftones shows. They're all going to be doing solo acts now. Like that would have been the most devastating thing in the world.
Right.
Chino does have a couple of side bands, which actually are pretty good.
Oh yeah.
He's got what's the Team Sleep.
Team Sleep.
He's got Team Sleep, which is a very good band. He's got Crosses, which is a very good band.
I really like that sound.
He's got another one called Poems, which is very like laid back and very chill.
I didn't even know that existed.
They all kind of fit the same feel as far as like this like almost like 80s like synth pop kind of like dark pop kind of sound. In the sense, like almost like Depeche Mode and Morrissey and all these other sorts of like 80s English pop acts. I think that was a huge influence on Chino, and I don't think he puts it into Deftones, but I don't think he puts it as much into Deftones as he does his other acts. But they all sound amazing.
Yeah, I've noticed, like, with listening to all of Chino's acts, he kind of follows the same vocal structure as something that I've noticed. He doesn't really change it up much at all.
No, but that's his sound. That's what people love.
That's true. So, every other podcast we've had, you've been the first one to put out a song. I was wondering if this time it'd be okay if I went ahead and laid down a track.
Absolutely.
All right. That sounds good. Well, I want to go with a track that ultimately sums up my feel for Deftones altogether. What Deftones is to me, you can certainly hear in the style and the feeling that this track has. And, of course, it's on none other than the White Pony album. This is Streetcar.
All right. So, something that I noticed about Deftones in their lyrics, and something that I read, is that Chino writes stuff that would make you think that they're personal or about them.
Yeah.
But they actually aren't. They're just very ambiguous. Like,
right.
They could literally be about anything.
Vague.
Very vague. But they write it, and maybe it's for people like me who follow their music and follow them as a band, that whenever you hear stuff like that, you sit down and think, I wonder if he actually did move to a place and that's his new address.
664.
Oh, I forget.
He forgot his address.
He forgot his address. That happens all the time. I can relate to this guy.
I moved into the same apartment.
But that's something that I always enjoyed about their music, and I enjoy about that song. Whenever you said that was your song, I went back to whenever I first heard that album in its entirety, and listening to that song in particular.
Right. And
like the music was great. I love the music and how intense it is, especially the guitars and the drums. It's all fucking phenomenal. But the thing that I stuck to was the lyrics.
Oh yeah. Because it almost makes no sense of why you would throw that in a song.
Exactly.
A song of their demeanor, like they've got a particular style to where their lyrics seem as though they're real serious.
Yeah.
You know, and to kind of throw in an address like that, it's almost like maybe they are talking about something very specific.
Yeah.
You know, which of course I don't know. See, you were saying that you listened to it in its entirety. That's the first time I've heard that song was whenever I was listening. I think maybe you burnt me a copy of the White Pony album, and whenever that happened, I listened to it in its entirety. I love the whole damn thing except for maybe Teenager. Yeah, I didn't. I still to this day don't like that song.
Why?
I like every other song.
Why don't you like Teenager?
I couldn't tell you. Maybe it's the whole Teen Sleep sound to it.
Okay, that actually makes a whole lot of sense because
it's too chill.
No,
for me.
Because one of the a member of Team Sleep came in and wrote that song with Chino.
Yeah.
So that's exactly why it sounds kind of like Team Sleep shit.
Exactly, and that's one thing that I never really got into Teen Sleep. I listened to that one song the other day and I sent it to you on Facebook, and I think I mainly sent it to you as like, hey, here's a song from Teen Sleep I actually like.
Right. No, I guess I can respect that. Teenager was a very big, very important song in my life. It's not my song that I'm going to play, believe it or not. But that song was okay. When we were starting a band together, we often talk about music that made us feel something. We wanted to make music that made you feel something again. Yeah. We wanted to make music that you could lay in bed, put your headphones on, put your media player, MP3 or CD player on your stomach, and just be taken away by the waves of music. And whenever I would listen to White Pony all the way, it wasn't until I got to Teenager that I was laying in bed, I put my CD player on my chest, and I put my headphones on, and fucking the waves just took me away.
Right.
And I didn't fight it, I just accepted it. And there's something about the lyrics and the melancholy of that song that I really attached to. Something along, like, one of the main lyrics where I drove you home and then you moved away.
Right.
A new cavity came into my life today. And I read that that's supposed to be like a Deftones love song, which, you know, you think a lot of their music is very intense and very, like, it could be open-ended to anything that they could be, singing about. But when you find out that that's a love song, and then you were able to attach it to something or someone in your life, like, it hits you on your ass. And listening to that song at, 13, 14 years old, that was big for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, see, Deftones has always remained in my thinking, like, it's always been like the perfect band to do the dirty to.
Absolutely.
And so I can see the sensualness of what you're talking about and the teenager aspect of it. But I mean, all around, like you say intense, man, I think that's just the sound to, I don't know, like.
Well, it wasn't until, because everybody's always said that Change in the House of Flies, ever since that damn movie,
right.
Queen of the Damned came out, everyone said that Change in the House of Flies
best soundtrack ever.
Best soundtrack ever, but the best song to fuck to. Okay?
Yeah.
Everybody will say it. Everybody I know, whenever you bring up Deftones, like, so...
next to Closer from 9 Inch Nails.
Absolutely, next to that one.
Right, next to that.
Anytime I say I'm a Deftones fan, they'll be like, so,
You into that shit.
So, you do the dirty to Change in the House of Flies?
Kinky Mr. Niko.
And I'll just say, get the fuck away from me, man. But I absolutely agree that there is a sensuality to their music. But it wasn't until their self-titled album, Deftones, not Deftones. Deftones was great. Diamond Eyes, that's what I meant to say. Diamond Eyes came out. That they were really just letting it all out.
Yeah.
You know, and you could just feel all the women moistening up from that shit. Like, you think of a song, You've Seen the Butcher. Amazing song.
Yeah.
And that's another one of those songs that could totally be about anything, but when you listen to it, you feel like all they're talking. It's like the old days whenever bands would talk about like classic rock bands, like they would just talk about sex.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't say like, "Oh, I'm gonna have sex with you." They would find like other ways of putting it, and then like that would sort of get your mind wandering.
I don't think Kiss was as subtle about it, but yeah.
No, absolutely. But along another line that people say is that sex sells.
Yeah,
we can both agree with that. And rock has always been notorious for being a very sex-driven music genre. And
I'm just saying, who needs Barry White when you have the fucking Deftones?
Absolutely, I concur. But songs like You've Seen the Butcher, songs like Entombed off of Koi no Yoken, songs like RX Queen off of White Pony, like some of these songs they're just as good as them fucking Barry White songs. Like, goddamn.
Even better. I'm just saying, we don't need Barry White. I've never fucking jammed Barry White. I'll just say.
I have.
I've never had to use it. No. Because the only cards up my sleeve are Deftones.
Well, I guess while we're on this really awkward topic, I'll go ahead and toss in my song next. My song is off of Diamond Eyes, which... Diamond Eyes was very like a renaissance period for me as far as like music, them coming back into my life strong again. Because before that, they had just done Saturday Night Wrist, which, like I've said before, it's a good album. It's not great. But they came off of that, and I'm starting to think, I never lost hope in Deftones, never once. But that's when I was starting to think, I think I'll listen to this other band instead. They sort of, they sort of went from my number one favorite band to like my number two favorite band. Second place. So that I didn't listen to them as much as I did, but then I found out that they were coming out with a new album. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna check it out. And then Diamond Eyes, the song, comes out, and it's like, that's fucking amazing. And then Rocket Skates comes out. It's like, oh god, this is so fucking good. And then you've Seen the Butcher comes out. Oh my god, every song that they were releasing was like so fucking amazing, and it made me fall in love with the band all over again.
That's awesome.
And but it wasn't until I heard a certain song, and I introduced Deftones to a very close friend, and they were something that we could actually truly connect together with.
Right.
Like I showed her, like we were friends on other bases. But then I showed her some music from Deftones, and she was like, I really like this stuff. I want, give me more music. So then we became closer friends, and I showed her the song that's my song, and she was like, this is probably one of the best songs I've ever heard. And then I tried learning on guitar, and then we tried playing it together a few times, and it always just was that song or that time period that we would go back on, and like that was definitive to our friendship. So it's very huge and very important to me, and I'll go ahead and I'll cut the foreplay, and the song that I'm gonna play is called "Sex Tape." if you're listening, that was for you. I love that song. I think a lot for the lyrics. I love it because of the music, but I think a lot for the lyrics. And I think that's something that people have always said about his lyric writing, is that it's very, aside from the whole open-ended thing that we were talking about, like, sometimes when you listen to those words that he uses, like, just sort of out of nowhere, like, it's a very creative and impressive choice of words, like cruising through the city after hours. Like, I mean, it's very simple and it's very basic, but just like him attaching those words to the tone of the music, it really makes it all fit together very well.
Right.
I think so.
It like the very beginning reminds me of like those moments whenever you're just kind of playing on guitar on those kind of lazy days, whenever you don't really want to do much on guitar, you're not feeling like playing the heavy stuff, and you're just kind of like getting the vibes off of just like short, small, like, I guess, chords, but plucking one at a time. And it just kind of reminds me of those moments that I know that I've had, just feeling the pretty notes.
Totally. Totally. And that song has a lot of them. Like, the choruses are really beautiful. The verses are really beautiful. It's generally a beautiful song. And it's crazy to, like, toss that song into their whole catalog of music. Because, like, whenever you think of songs, like, off of, like, Saturday Night Wrist, like Rats, 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 and, like, fucking, Mascara was pretty, was pretty as well. But,
I actually love Mascara.
Yeah, Mascara was pretty good. But you toss in, like Labia and like Engine Number 9, like you toss like all these like really like heavy duty songs, and then you toss in a beautiful one like Sex Tape.
I think every album had one of those.
To tell you the honest to God truth, every time I ever pick up a Deftones album, I listen to every song, but deep in the back of my head, I'm praying to God, like, where's the one song? Where is that one?
I think the same thing, but my act is to avoid it.
And see, like, I know that band has gotten into, like, they've gotten into a lot of fights with, like, Chino and Stefan, the guitarist, over those types of songs. Like, Stefan has, like, referred to them as, like foofy. Or, like some, like, very, like, wimpish type of name or whatever. And you listen to his guitar playing, it's very, like, heavy duty, like, heavy metal almost. And, very contrasting to each other. Like, they're complete polar opposites. But, I don't know. I can connect with that music for some strange reason. Maybe it's just my personality. But whenever, after White Pony and listening to songs like Change and songs like Knife Party and, those really beautiful songs, whenever my self-titled album, Deftones, came out, and I heard Minerva.
Yeah.
And then I heard Death Blow and Battle Axe.
I like Hexagram on that one.
Hexagram is fantastic, but I heard those songs and I'm like, that's what I was wanting to hear. And then whenever Saturday Night Wrist came out and Cherry Waves was on there, and Up Up Down Down Left Right X X.
It's like a PlayStation cheat.
Yeah, it's like a video game cheat. Whenever that one came on, so I'm thinking, okay, those are the songs. And then every album,
right,
I always look for that one song. And I know I'm just setting myself up to where whenever their new album comes out, whenever the fuck it comes out, it was supposed to have come out in like August, but August of this year. Yeah,
I did not know there was a new album. Now, honestly, for me, like, I liked Adrenaline. I loved Around the Fur. I really loved White Pony.
Totally.
That was the moment for me where it started to dip and away from my taste.
After White Pony?
After White Pony. Okay. But I was surprised with Koi no Yokon.
Oh, totally.
Romantic Dreams.
Yeah.
I mean, you've mentioned before, you've told me this is a song that I know John will like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everything about that song is just phenomenal. But the whole album is mixed up. To me, some of them are kind of like the softer ones, like we just listened to. But which, by the way, I'm not dissing the song we just listened to. I actually really like that for one of the slower songs that they do have. Mm-hmm. I thought it was really good. I mean, I've listened to it before, didn't really show any attention to it, but listening to it right now with decent headphones makes a big difference.
Totally. And sticking with Koi no Yokin, which, by the way, do you know what that means?
I didn't even apparently know how to pronounce it, so...
Koi no Yokin it's not really like a definitive, like, it has no definition.
Right.
It's just supposed to be the feeling when you know you're in love. So it's a feeling. But it's not really like a word or like a definition or something like that.
It's just something that's said.
It's something that you know.
Kind of like slang.
Exactly.
Okay.
But yeah, songs. That album was, it got awarded Album of the Year by Revolver Magazine, which was really dope.
Oh wow.
And it did really well, from what I know.
I just remember the first time I listened to it, it felt like it went pretty hard.
Totally. Swerve City.
Yeah.
The song that starts it off. Like, I remember I put that album in, and I think I had heard, like, they released Tempest.
Yeah, that's the one I heard first, and I was like, eh.
Yeah.
But I felt like the lyrics may have had something to do with Chi Cheng.
It's possible.
That's because it had that whole entombed aspect of it. You know?
Before we go ahead and continue on, I think we'll go ahead and address that one. Chi Cheng, their bass player since the beginning,
right.
Since 1988, passed away April 13th, 2013. And I remember legitimately being upset.
Right.
Like, I felt like I lost someone that I knew.
But the thing was, I mean, he's been out of it since he had the accident in 2008.
He was in a car accident in 2008, and he was left comatose ever since, or a comatose state. Like, apparently, like, he could open his eyes, but like he was pretty much a vegetable.
Right.
All that they did was just keep him as comfortable as possible, and try and be optimistic about the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I think he was gone ever since the beginning. So that was really sad. That was very heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking when I found out that he was in the accident, and I was like, oh, shit, what's going to happen now? Right. And then they picked up Sergio Vega from Quicksand, who's a very, very talented bass player, and someone who they actually played with before. I think Chi Cheng had like some sort of staph infection, and he couldn't play, so they asked Serge to step in for one of their performances.
Oh, that's cool.
So they already knew each other. So that was really sweet, just to see that of everybody that they could have gone to, they went to someone that they knew and that they had worked with before. He was standing in while Chi was out, and then on April 13th, 2013, I remember I got the word from a friend.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yo, did you hear that Chi Cheng died? And I was like, no, I didn't know. And I was living in Michigan, and I think I was in the middle of watching The Walking Dead. And
worst time ever.
I know. I got the news, and I was like, I don't even want to watch this shit anymore.
Oh, man.
I felt like I'm just so upset right now.
It was like a close buddy.
Exactly. And all I could do after that, I had work the next day, but all I could do was just stay up and just watch videos of his interviews, listening to his voice and listen to my favorite performances, and listening to performances in particular where he would just scream. If you ever. There's one video where they're performing "Be Quiet and Drive," and I want to say they played it maybe 2005 or 2006, and it was in some big festival show. And normally, whenever they play and you watch them live, for some strange reason, I don't know why, but Chi's microphone was always real low.
Yeah,
you'd be singing into it and you could barely hear it. He'd be very faint.
Yeah,
compared to Chino, which was. Yeah, very loud. And I think it was at the very end of Be Quiet and Drive whenever they're like, away, I don't care where, just far away.
Yeah.
And she's doing the away, the backup vocals. And then at the very end, I guess someone turned his mic up real loud. And he's like, oh, just screams. His scream was real, real loud, and
That's
it was
awesome.
Sound so intense. It felt like if you could personify the emotion that I had from finding out that he had passed away, and she was the one to deliver it.
Yeah.
It was insane. But fucking, he was a phenomenal bass player. When you listen to his bass playing and his songwriting, dude was phenomenal as a musician. But whenever he left, he was still in his comatose state whenever they wrote Diamond Eyes.
Yeah.
Because they were like, we're gonna keep going for him. We're gonna keep going for.
Well, he died in 2013. I mean, even up to Koi no Yoken.
Yeah.
He was alive for it.
Yeah.
He just wasn't.
Yeah. And there's a song on Kono Yoken. I know we just talked a few seconds ago about how their lyrics are very open ended and they could be about anything. They aren't about anything specific. But every time I listen to the song Entombed,
right,
there's no doubt in my mind that song is about Chi.
Absolutely. I think almost every song on that album was about that state. I think Tempest was about it. I think Entombed. I mean, it's just one of those things that, you know, you could tell affected this band so very much, you know, to where it was their world, you know, to where it was something that they felt like they just needed to write about and kind of get off their chest and just kind of, I don't know. Like, I feel it a lot with Tempest. Whenever I heard Tempest for the first time, knowing that Chi was in the coma, like, I felt every lyric, you know, as it was applicable to that situation.
Totally. But I think they've done a really great job as far as, like, just continuing on. You know, like, while he was in his state, you know, they had this huge benefit show called One Love for Chi, where there was a lot of bands there. System of a Down was there.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking a whole bunch of heavy metal bands were, like, not just bands, but, like, artists were there. You know, like, fucking Tommy Lee was there. Fucking Mike Shinoda from Linkin Park was there. Fucking the guitarist and bass player from System of a Down were there. Like, System of a Down and Chino and Steph Carpenter did a version of Toxicity, and it was cool as shit. You know, like, they covered a whole bunch of songs, and, like, even, like, the weirdest of people, but, like, because they knew Chi, fucking Mark McGrath from what was that bitch band?
It sounds familiar. Is that a Sugar Ray?
Sugar Ray.
Is that it?
Yeah. Mark McGrath was there. And, like, Cheeto had to be like, listen, man, you know, like, back in the day, we did a lot of shows with this one cat, you know.
You know, they did have some heavy songs.
No, I know, back in the day, they totally sold out, but back in the day, they had some shit, and I guess they played shows with Deftones, and, Chino was like, yeah, we're gonna, you know, this next guy, you know, we used to do a whole bunch of shows, you know, with him back in the day, make some noise for Mark McGrath. Boo! Everybody was like, get the fuck out of here. It was funny as shit, but everybody was...
Next we have Justin Bieber.
Right. But everybody... Fucking Exhibit was there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm talking everybody was there to show support for Chi, and it was fucking amazing. And they raised up... They did like two nights of shows, and they sold out every single one, and then they even had a whole bunch of bands come together for the One Love for Chi website, and they, like, straight up released a single. Like, they wrote a song. Like, fucking 30 musicians came together, like people from, like, Killswitch Engage,
wow.
from POD, from a whole bunch of other heavy metal bands, Stone Sour, fucking... I can't even list all the bands that were in this compilation, but, like, a certain group would play for, like, a few seconds or like a minute, and then it would switch off into the next one, and then into the next one until it was like a full song.
Yeah,
there was so much, no pun intended. There was so much love for Chi Cheng that it was really amazing to see that everyone united for this band, which isn't even all that great, like that big of a band.
Now,
like,
was this after he died, or was this right before he died?
It was right before. Like they were raising money to pay for his medical bills.
Oh wow.
You know what I mean? So, like, just telling you that, like, everyone's chipping in there what they can to support him, just to make him comfortable.
God, the love, man.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure that the money went towards his family, which is exactly where it should.
Absolutely.
Man, that's got to be some hard shit.
Absolutely. I've never thought of the emotions. Well, okay, maybe I have, just to prepare myself, but just thinking about, like, losing a bandmate or losing a close friend that you spend all of these, like, hours with in a day, or all these years with, where you're leaving yourself completely vulnerable to them so that you can write music together and you can do stuff like that. You know, like, essentially, like, they know you better than you know yourself, and I can't prepare myself for the day that happens, so I can only begin to feel, you know, I can barely begin to feel what they had to go through, since they've known each other since, like, high school.
Yeah. They started playing in 88?
Yeah.
Yeah. What they have, wow, so they probably had like 7 or 8 years. 7 years of playing before they came out with their first album.
Yeah, totally. And I'd heard that, they did that because they wanted to get everything down.
Right.
They wanted to make sure that everything was tight. But even
See, I heard that the first album though was known as the fast album.
Yeah,
they really went into there. And
it was very raw, and it was very it was done very fast, and even when you listen to it, it sounds very. I mean, compared to their other albums, it does sound like they're just sort of like just going all balls into it.
See, I was hearing I was reading that Chino, even on that first album, was using one of those like cheap dynamic mics. I say cheap, I mean like $50 to $100 dynamic mics.
Right.
As they recorded. It was saying that his vocals, while they were obviously skilled the way that they were, just the fact that they were recorded, the way they were, kind of brought the album down a little bit.
Yeah, I understand that, but it still got him out there, People,
it sure did.
If I can, someone from Maverick Records. Do you know who?
Maverick.
You know who started Maverick?
No, I do not.
Madonna.
What?
Maverick is Madonna's label, and they got onto Madonna's label.
Well, I can't diss Madonna.
Oh, hell no. Shit, let's just go ahead and take a moment to appreciate Madonna, because Like a Virgin was my shit. Papa Don't Preach was my shit.
Frozen. That's my shit.
Frozen?
You never heard Frozen?
No.
I sing that shit all the time at karaoke, dude.
Oh, that one. Okay.
I rock that shit, man.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Probably not like Madonna, though.
No. Maybe that's why I don't know that it's Madonna, because you're singing it, and you're just like, I don't want to listen to this shit.
Yeah, that's what it is. I love it, dude. It's a good song. It means a lot. I'm like, listen, why are we... Okay, we're going to save the rest of this for our next podcast about Madonna.
Totally. But yeah, they got onto Madonna's label, and I want to say they stuck with Maverick until Deftones' self-titled came out, and I think they went on to Warner Brothers, and then I think they're still on a label.
On that same label?
No, I don't know if it's still Warner Brothers, but I think there's still like a band that's on a label. Which, thinking about it, is like, it's very rare, because like everybody's either, I mean, everybody that's on a label.
Self-done, yeah.
No, well, everybody that's on a label, it's very like pop music, like
right.
music that gets out there really well.
Right.
But Deftones, like I was saying before, like everybody knows who Deftones is, like in the music world that listens to rock music. You know who the Deftones are, because they've played so many shows. They've played so many festivals.
Right.
Their songs have impacted so many people. But they aren't on the award shows. They aren't on the magazines all the time. Their music videos aren't being played all the time. They're too busy making music and doing, making records and performing festivals and really getting out there to the audience, to the listener, instead of appealing to what the label wants them to do.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so weird to know that they're still on a label.
Yeah. Okay, so now I think it was you that were telling me something about how the Deftones album was recorded.
Oh, the self-titled Deftones album?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, typically whenever a band records an album or records a song, they do what we in the industry call tracking, whereas one musician will lay down his part first, and then the other person will put their part on top of that, and the other person will put their instrument on top of that. Singer will put their vocals on top of all the other stuff, and eventually you get a song. And then you got hours and hours of post-production. A lot of hair is lost, a lot of anxiety.
Right.
Kids don't join a band. It's bullshit. Anyways.
That's totally false.
But what Deftones did for their self-titled album is they played everything together at the same time.
Yeah.
They recorded it live, essentially.
The feeling is organic.
Exactly. I think Chino did his vocals later, but when you think about it, it's essentially what every band did. Well, not every band, but most bands did back in the day. Everyone would be in, like, the singer would be in his vocal booth, and then the guitars and the drums and everything would be in the big room, and then you got your engineer, in the sound booth. It's like, all right, here we go, and then you hit record, and then you got your 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
and then they would play a song, and then they would just lay it down just like that, because back in the day they were recording everything on tape.
Right.
You know, they weren't doing everything digital, so they had to get it down in one take. So Deftones were doing that for self-titled album, and I kind of feel like that intensity, like everything being on, like they're performing it live, made it feel real.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the average day listener can tell, but I think having been driven to insanity by music, I could tell that most songs are probably tracked. You know, they're just layers upon layers upon layers, just tossed on top of each other.
How perfect it sounds sometimes.
Exactly. It's
And like the way that we're doing now, we're obviously talking at the same time. You know.
Yeah.
You can hear a little bit of you in my mic.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a lot of the thing about playing at the same time. You know, and that's another thing which about that first album that they did. He was singing in that little dynamic mic while they were playing live.
Right.
So that's probably what also brought down that album a little bit in the sense of how it was recorded. You know, they're gonna not be able to pinpoint just Chino whenever they're playing in the same room at the same time.
Right.
First recordings we ever done were jam session in a room.
Yeah.
You know, and then eventually we got to the tracking aspect.
Yeah. When you compare the two styles of recording to each other, you know, whenever everyone's in a room and you're jamming together, there's something in that you're capturing that
That's
you never would be able to capture if you were to track it. And I think on that album, though self-titled album was a very successful album for him. It was the highest one that, I mean, I think other than White Pony, Deftones went to number 2 on the Billboard for the self-titled one, which was I remember hearing that.
Right.
I remember reading an article that was like, you know, top 10 on the billboards, and then seeing the cover for self-titled Deftones album, which was probably my favorite cover ever, with the skull and the red and blue roses right next to it.
Yeah.
Like, that's my favorite image ever when it comes to Deftones, right next to the actual White Pony.
Right.
But hearing that they got to number 2, you know, on the billboards, which, I mean, nowadays that shit doesn't really mean anything to me, but like back in the day, hearing that your favorite band is being successful and they're topping the charts, that's fucking amazing. And I think they were able to capture something that got them there,
right,
you know, with their recording that album that way.
Or actually, I want to say, earlier I said that I liked the Hexagram song on that album.
Yeah.
It was actually Pins and Needles that I really liked.
Oh, God, Pins and Needles was fantastic.
But, yeah, with that album, it was really good. Was that the same time when they did the Rarities album? Because I didn't have that on my list.
B-Sides and Rarities came out, between Deftones and Saturday Night Wrist.
Okay, that makes sense. Because they had some songs that were, like, similar or connected in that whole self-titled album.
Yeah, B-Sides and Rarities was actually really fun. Like, to first off, to know that they came out with that, when they had been a band for, you know, quite a while at that point, but it's usually close to the end of their run whenever a band's run, whenever they put out like a best of or you know, a rarity kind of album, you know, just for something special. And
they had covers on that, didn't they?
Yes, they did. They had Simple Man. They had Please Please Let Me Get What I Want by the Smiths, which is so fucking hardcore.
I have not heard that, man.
Oh my god. See, Chino is a huge fan of Morrissey. And he's a huge fan of the Smiths. And whenever I heard that he did that cover, I was like, this makes so much sense. It's ridiculous. But whenever I heard they did a cover of Simple Man by Lynyrd Skynyrd, I was like, okay, what the fuck? Now, I wasn't saying that in a bad way. I was like, I'm saying that Deftones, Lynyrd Skynyrd, what the fuck is this noise? But then they pull it off and they make it their own. And it's like the dopest shit you could ever imagine. And then they did a huge one for me was they did No Ordinary Love by Sade. Her version of that song is so fucking beautiful. It's so heartbreaking.
I think I've heard that one.
But when you hear Deftones play it, it's like that's the best band possible to cover a song like that.
On Deftones covers, Didn't they also do like at a live show possibly Say It Ain't So?
Weezer, Say It Ain't So. Oh, of course, they always do that song.
I listened to that one. I really enjoyed that one. Like that one felt like it went harder than the original, which the original kind of goes hard.
Oh, totally. But hearing them do it was funny. So I know, like, I've watched that video I've listened to that recording so many times. Well, no, okay, because they performed that song at Rock in Rio in like 2001 or 2, I want to say, and like they played the whole song.
Right.
It was fucking phenomenal. But there's this one recording where he's shouting, Chino's shouting out to the audience, any song, just call out any song and we'll play it. And someone yells out Weezer, and he's like Weezer, and then like Stefan starts playing Say It Ain't So on his guitar, and then they just go straight into it. And whenever it goes into the like father, stepfather, and it goes into that big long note, he just screams it out, yeah. It's real intense, and like I think even he knew, like, he took it too far.
Isn't that when he apologized to? It was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I couldn't do it. But that was awesome. I liked hearing that, and that's a good track. I don't really actually listen to that much Weezer. That album was good.
Oh yeah, totally.
But that's the one song I dig. So to hear them do it was pretty fucking awesome.
It's fun to know that Deftones has like that sense of humor, that they play songs like that, because they straight up played NWA Straight Outta Compton once.
Whoa.
True story. They were okay. They didn't play the whole thing, but like they were playing a show in California. And they saw someone's hat, and it said Compton on it. And Chino was like, Compton? And then, like, Abe starts playing the drums to Straight Outta Compton. And then Chino, like, just straight goes into it, Straight Outta Compton! Crazy motherfucker! And then he just starts laughing his ass off. Like, he knows it's the most ridiculous thing in the world. So knowing that they have a sense of humor and they can just laugh and be fun, despite them being, like their songs being, like, kind of serious sometimes, and, like, or at least have like a serious tone to them. Like, that's awesome. Like, that makes what I imagine going to their shows the most fun.
Right.
But as I said before, they're supposed to come out with a new album. It was supposed to be out. From what I understand, it was supposed to be out in like April, and then like no, we got to push it forward a little bit, and then it was supposed to be put out in August. And then they did a whole shitload of shows and a tour. And then, like, all right, now it's going to be out in the beginning of 2016. I have no idea when the fuck it's going to be out.
You know what? The longer that it takes, the better it'll probably be, though. So
we can only hope. Because the last time, between 2003 and 2006, they came out with Saturday Night Wrist. So,
but 06 to 10, they did fucking Diamond Eyes.
That is true. That is absolutely true. But I am legitimately excited about this band.
It's definitely one of the bands to do it to, or just listen to, on a easy note, It's a good band to listen to altogether because they have a diverse sound. It's certainly not anything you want to download individually, track by track. It's a fucking band that you want to listen to the entire album and get the full feel. And when you purchase the album, the money goes somewhere towards the band. So that's what you want to do.
Absolutely. It's rare that a band can do that, but I think Deftones has definitely done that with their music. Every song that you listen to, every album that they make, it honestly gets better and better. Except Pink Cell Phone. But on that note, I want to say that Deftones is probably one of my favorite bands of all time. And funny enough, our last showcase was Radiohead, and it has once been said that Deftones is the metal version of Radiohead.
You think so?
In the sense of like their lyrics being like so open and so interpretive or whatever. But
yeah,
I just thought that was a fun little twist that our first showcase was Radiohead, and Deftones is the metal version of Radiohead. It all ties around together. But anyways, on that note, for our second podcast showcase, Deftones, we love you. Keep making your music that you make. Good night, good luck, and goodbye.
Goodbye.